Hi, I'm David Allen Harris. I'm an artist who paints with his camera. I've been showing my work in galleries since 2007, and I started showing with Artomatic. Up until now, up until recently, I've mainly been shooting nature pictures, flowers, trees, anything that'll stand still. And I met Lyric in 2016, and I asked her if she would model for me to do a series of photos in a sunflower field. That was a really great shoot, and I was very happy with it. It produced a lot of very nice work, and we kind of fell out and whatever. And then we kind of came back together in 2020. And I asked her, if she'd model and do this Afrofuturism series with me. And during that series, I started experimenting with these little crystals that you can stick in front of your lens. And that shoot was like the grandfather shoot to everything you see here.
So exactly, yeah. Hi, so my name's Lyric, and I'm an interdisciplinary artist, and I focus on storytelling and just mixing it with line, design, and dimension. So I work with a lot of mediums, as you can see, but my favorites are always going to be black and white with patterns. So anyway, yeah, Dave and I met in a gallery in 2016. It was right on U Street. And I started to do a shoot with him right after that. That was when the sunflower shoot he was referring to happened. So I've done art modeling before, but I learned a lot more about how to pose and to work with a camera through working with him and our mentor, who's Michael Platt, may he rest in peace. So eventually I decided to work more of my own artwork into our shoots, and he would ask me for inspiration of what to add in, like how to style my hair, what sort of colors to use, and stuff I could try with makeup as well. And so what happened after the first shoot, we tried that, we just kept going. And we just started to get more fabric, and we started to experiment with backdrops, and sometimes we would put different elements together to see what would look the best. And oftentimes we would talk to each other about the type of colors as well that we were interested in using.
For the Wa PaPo shoots we did, I had two ideas that I was looking for. I wanted her to look timeless, and I wanted her to be a part of her art, look like, not like she's standing in front of her art, but she's an actual part of it. To me, the timelessness meant clothes that had no touch of modernity, and it's an approach I've been using for a while. I started draping models with a red fabric because it's that eye-catching color, and it provides a lot of contrast with the other colors that are in the scene. Up until 2021, I shot all the time with natural light and a little bit of on-camera flash. And in 2021, after the Afrofuturism shoot, I was like, we're shooting in our house, I'm gonna need some more light. So I started using these little LED cubes. And up until that point, I had no interest in studio lights, nor studio shooting or studio photography. It just didn't interest me at all.
But yeah, like you said, it kind of changed with Wa PaPo. So immediately before we started doing the series, he had one thing where he would set me up in red cloth, and we would go to different places and take pictures. So, and that red cloth that you see in here with the different pictures, that's pretty much the same one that we've been using for the past few years for several different types of shoots. So if you want to think about, like the symbol or motif, if we decided to build upon it, it would be this red cloth, right? So we decided to expand upon the current theme of storytelling after we completed the first set of pictures for the series in 2020. And there was no explicit storyline at first because we wanted to focus on creating this metaphysical story of character, as opposed to anything else.
The Afrofuturism shoots were in areas where the sun just came out for a little part, and it took us like, I think 6 months to finish doing all the shooting because I was just using natural light, and we would come back to the same place and shoot a little bit more, and then the sun would get out of the way and we'd have to wait until another sunny day or something to do it again. And while I was shooting them, I started to get bored with just lyric in the back of this library with all these trees reflecting from the windows. And so I had to add another element, some other elements. So then I started like throwing the red cloth on the ground. And then that way it symbolized different things for me in different shots, but I just needed some more elements in the pictures. And another thing I did was I felt like there wasn't any blue sky at all. And I just wanted some blue in my pictures too. And so we bought a long blue piece of cloth. And then Lyric wanted to paint it, but I was like, no, let's don't paint it because that will limit its use to just that. And so we went out and we got these plastic runners, real thin ones. And then she painted lines and things on them. And then we laid that over the fabric, and then that gave the extra texture inside the shots.
So yeah, a lot of those things happened and just made it into the final Wa PaPo shoot. And after that, we started brainstorm for more creative ideas, right? So learning how to research comparative religions, and I stumbled upon this series of stories about Egypt, and regarding Egyptology and Kemet, there's a really deep tradition that I just wanted to become more established with because a way to get in touch with my roots, right? So I started to look up creation and rebirth stories, which is like a common theme throughout all cultures on Earth. And I quickly came upon the one of Osiris, Isis, and Nephthys, along with the brother Set. So combined with another story about Net and Geb, who are the gods of heaven and earth, respectively, I just wanted to create a simpler version of how everything fit together, and also just make another sort of creation story about a new sort of earth itself. So the original story had Nut and Geb give birth to Osiris, Isis, Nephthys, and Set. So different stories tell different things and reasons why the following happened, but Set murdered Osiris and scattered his body parts all over the world. Basically, he was just hating on him, I guess. I mean, I don't want to get into it. But basically, Isis, who was Osiris's wife, was so determined to get him back together, so she got her sister Nephthys coming along and to just gather all the parts back together and reanimated him. So for this series, instead of Osiris, I made myself an Usir, which is the feminine version of that name, and placed Isis and Nephthys as the two figures that you see in the installation here in the gallery. And so I also deleted references to, explicit death, or such for simplicity's sake. And you can see the two sisters again right over there in another world. So.
Yeah, before we did this Three Sisters shoot, we did a shoot called The Rainbow Warrior. And that was our first time, well, actually the second time doing a backdrop. We did something earlier than The Rainbow Warrior. But that was all testing, trying to figure each other out and just having fun too. Yeah. But the Rainbow Warrior shoot, it felt very constricting when it came time to composing, because the backdrop was just 6 by 6 feet. And there's not a lot you can do with that without breaking the fourth wall and other things showing up in the shot that you don't want in a shot. So,
Yeah, but that's fine because that's how magic works anyway. It overlaps with whatever you consider real. You know,
so anyway, anyway, my son helped me build a 9 by 8 foot wall. And we built this wall inside Lyric's living room in her apartment. And the wall was big. You know, and I still I like a lot of room to move around, to compose the shot, looking up, looking down, looking every which way, trying to find something different. And I could tell still that I'm going to get part of her living room in the shot. And so I hung the plastic runners that we made before, and with the lines and stuff drawn on it, and I put that on the side. Like you might see it in some of these shots, like that one right there in the upper left-hand corner. This one right here. You can see that little black piece right there, and you can see it in that one. And that was trying to keep her living room out of the shot. You know, I wanted it to all be like inside of her world that she created, right? And even with that thing in there to try to like protect me and constrain me, it didn't really constrain me all that much. And I did end up breaking the fourth wall in quite a few shots, like this one right here.
Okay. Basically, yeah, we also used a lot of work with crystals, and we just wanted to accentuate different elements that we were just using throughout the process and the shoot itself. So Dave called me not exactly a force of nature, but a part of nature. And so you don't really tell nature what to do, right? But you just take shots of it here and there, and as it is, and you figure out where the shapes and the colors lay and how to arrange them in the best possible manner. So when we started planning the shoot, I told him about my interest in Usir and the recreation of the world, but I didn't really tell him about an exact storyline. But the subject never changed. It's just what happened in the final story, which you see in the poetry form over there. And we wanted to just work on refining the length of the story itself because, with our initial series, we had a longer story that described the play-by-plays of everything that happened in each picture in the series. And it's more in tune with the sequential art style that we were looking to go for. But with the second series here, we just wanted to do something that was more immersive and larger than the first one that we did for Rainbow Warrior. And I made that happen with leftover materials with what was in my house. So the title in the series included references to what's happening in the pictures and hint at their place in the story itself. And if you're wondering about the cat, I liken her to Bast, who was the patron goddess of cats and was a very important part of Egyptian life and antiquity, excuse me, look at this. But in reality, she just sort of walked in and made her presence felt, So the crystals and the magic that shot out for them is just an expansion of that idea, and that's an entirely a credit to Dave.
I had a lot of trepidation about the shoot because the old one, the Rainbow Warrior, I kind of understood there were these two big figures like totems behind her, and I was just playing with her and the totems. This one, I wasn't too sure how to approach the background, but I just kind of watched her as she was building it, watched it, and then I just kind of felt like this is nature. She's nature, and I shoot nature, so I should have no problem with what she's doing. Everything I treat is just shapes, and then it's just where to compose the shapes in the picture and stuff to get something pleasing.
Okay. Yeah.
You don't know the history or meaning or what you're shooting sometimes in nature, but you just intuit what makes a good composition and go from there.
Yeah, so, I just wanted to say that, yeah, I decided to just roll with whatever he was going with, as well as how he wanted to roll with whatever I was going with. And so, again, we had a whole bunch of perfect, things coming together just at the right time and the right place, and in ways that we couldn't exactly anticipate, but it was in the manner that it needed to be. So that's what you see here. And again, I'm just saying that, yeah, towards the end of the shoot, which lasted for about an hour or so, the cat just walked in. And instead of getting angry about it, and he didn't get angry about it either, we just rolled with it. So basically, again, hail Bass the goddess. And that's all basically we have to say. So thanks so much for your attention.
Hi. I was on a Zoom call earlier today and we had a cat just. Is everything digital?
I use a digital camera, and all the what looked like digital effects were created optically with a set of crystals by this company called Lens Baby. And in all these pictures, everything you see is what I saw through the lens of the camera. So I literally created these things on the fly while we were working. And this was all due to practicing with that old shoot we did. It's an Afrofuturism shoot. And then I practiced some more with them out in California. And by the time we did Rainbow Warrior, I had like a good feel for them. But by the time this came around, I really knew them.
I wanted to know, what is the significance of Wa PaPo? Yes.
So we decided we had a partnership going, right? And then it's like, well, if you have a partnership, you got to have a name for it. And we were brainstorming names, going on and on and on. And then I heard this song, guitarist Gary Clark Jr., he did a version of the Beatles, Come Together. And I like that idea, come together, because that's literally what we're doing. We're coming together to create art together. But then I was like, I don't want to call our group Come Together. That sounds corny. So I was like, well, let's look and see what we can find in Africa, a nice phrase and stuff. And we went through a bunch of phrases, and then we saw Wa PaPo. And I just liked the way it rolled off your tongue and everything. And I was like, yeah, let's do this one. And she was all in on it too, so we decided to call ourselves Wa PaPo. It's a Yoruba name from the Yoruba tradition in Africa.
Yes, so I just wanted to add that I just have a personal connection with just learning more about that pantheon, and I feel grateful for the opportunity to be able to have that base of knowledge to draw from and every day of my life. So.
Hi. I have a lot of questions, but what I'm really interested is to know if this work is finished, or if you are, because there is so much performance within the images, even within the mixed media, And sometimes, I wonder if it's gonna come out and coming to break the wall and, performs in real time.
That's what I was thinking while she was modeling and doing the shots. Because she was in another world, especially in this one right here. She was breathing very heavy and stuff, and I could just feel all the energy coming off of her. And so when I managed to get the yellow light and then kind of like steer it right between her hands like that, and I thought, wow, that's magic right there, you know. And yeah, this series of work here is done. There are actually about 60 images in the series, and took me a while to figure out which ones I wanted to use. And another thing about it is, like, up on my Facebook page, you can see a lot of these, my art page. You can see a lot of these images, and they're not quite the same as what you see here because I did crop. And in that sense, yeah, it's never totally finished. She made the crop for the frame, you know, but other than that, it's done. I would like to show more of it sometime later because there's a lot to it. And we started working on another one in January and February of 2022. And then a lot of things were going on with my family. Like my mom, it just passed away. And we got married.
Thanks.
I got a feeling that if you work too close with somebody too long, he will decide that you really like them, everything, and it's best to be friends first.
Yes, that is definitely the case.
Hello. Hello. It's a very interesting concept that you're working with, and thank you. But can you explain a little more about the concept of Afrofuturism and how that applies?
Oh, that's not part of this shoot. No, that was like after Michael Platt passed away in 2019. Sometime towards the end of the year, we met and started talking again. And that first shoot we did after we got back together was an Afrofuturism shoot. And that's the one. And the only reason why I referred to it is because the technique that I used in these images, it came from that shoot first. And that shoot was a second time around because I had shot in the same place, I guess 2018 or 2019, and not one image juried into a show. And I always thought it was a great location and stuff. And so it's like this. Lyric is magical, I have to admit, because even the sunflower shot, the shoot that we did, I had done that before, a year before I met Lyric. Michael Platt and we went out in the sunflower field with a model, and I would say two things that ruined it. I couldn't get her to drape herself in the red cloth. She thought what she was wearing was just fine enough, you know. And it's just like, you know, some little hippy dippy stuff, you know. And I'm just like, no, I'm not taking hippy dippy pictures, you know. I want you to look timeless in this field, you know. I don't want people to say, oh, that was from the 1920s, or that's from the 1970s. You don't know when it was from. It happened after they invented color film, you know. And so the same thing happened with the Afrofuturism shoot. Lyric came back into my life again, and then I was like, well, let's try this. Let me try this again. And that time, we drew several pictures into shows. And I was very happy.
I wanted to add a little bit. So a bit about the timelessness aspect. So there is Afrofuturism that you were talking about, and then there's Afro dimension. Afro-dimensionality, which basically is just, you can go backwards in time, you can go forwards in time, you can be right now in the present, but then there's uncertainty about the flow or the exact placement of time itself. And so that was why we wanted to use like cloths and other not less descriptive articles of clothing, because we wanted to show that flow, that endless flow of that cycle. So a lot of people want to say Afrofuturism, but the concept itself is way larger, and I think it encapsulates a lot more about the possibilities of what art can do.
I tell you how far we went with that Afrofuturism. I insisted on a silver suit. Because it's not the future until everybody is wearing silver suits. That was the other thing that was interesting. That had to do with the fighting over hair and stuff too, because she wanted to wear braids, and now I'm just like, this is an Afrofuturism shoot. You got to have a natural hair. You don't need to braid it. Anybody could braid their hair up and look like they're black, but it's kind of hard to fake our hair.
Yeah. So basically, I just wanted to. I still like braids. I don't care what he says, and just I say that.
That was a hard-won fight.
Yeah. So we kind of just switched it up. I had a huge afro of my hair, and then for a few shoots, and then there were other shoots where I had braids, and my hair is different again. I think that's another part of the flow, and just like capturing everything, and whatever happens in that moment, we just embrace it fully.
Thank you for the talk. I like the style of how you're presenting like a conversation. It's mesmerizing.
Thank you. I missed one part. Would you care for me to read the last part I was going to read?
I think I mispronounced a word too, so don't worry. Stuff happens.
Well, I was interested in the inspiration you said you took from I think you said it was Osiris, like the god, but you changed him into a female. Yeah. How does the art sort of represent your, like this being, and are you, did you do research about what was the Egyptian style, or what the god would have worn, or was it just an internal inspiration, or how is the god represented in the art? I guess is my question.
So Osiris is depicted as a dark-skinned or black-skinned, entity. So I didn't want to, do that completely. Instead, I wanted to just riff on the idea of, making him a part of night, like representing him as a part of the underworld more directly. So I decided to, also work in his mother Nut, who is the goddess of the sky, in terms of having a black background and kind of a galactic sort of makeup application on my skin. So that way, I wanted to have fun with the story while also, paying homage to the source itself.
All right, well, thank you both so much for the great conversation.
Talking for myself.